But this is really strengthening the API that we're offering, in addition to producing a larger and larger number of applets. Another applet that I want to show right now that's really cool. You see a rendering error there. That's no good. I think it's a bounding rect bug in that applet. Anyways, one that I wanted to show you was in our script. Here we are. So here we are. We have the Tiger SVG, the classic SVG image. As you know, we already know we can paint SVGs. No big news there. A lot of the stuff you're seeing right here is done by SVG, obviously. But what's unique about this is that this is being drawn with JavaScript. There is exactly zero C++ code going on here. And it's using libplasma to fetch the SVG and then display it. So that's very cool. What's even more cool is if I go to the settings, it pops up a dialog box here with the settings in it. It's using the same settings as the clock. This is just a demo here of what we're doing. So we don't actually have specific settings for the test or the demo script applet. But this again is no lines of code. This is a Qt designer file, which is just XML, and you just draw. If you haven't seen designer, you just draw your interface, point and click, drag stuff around, much like you would in any other graphical designer. And this is that XML file is being loaded at runtime, and it creates a live configuration dialog. What's also really cool is we support loading of config XML, the same XML that we use for kconfig xt, that we use to automate some of this stuff in Kiosk when it comes to the GUI. We can load that at runtime from XML, create a configuration object that then mates up at runtime automatically to your UI, so that the user can, hit display seconds and actually changes the value of that. And then inside of your script, you can actually say, do I display seconds? And there's no code that needs to be written to actually get that whole configuration system running. And all this is encapsulated within a small package that is easily shareable and that has known locations for different items. So the main script, the configuration XML, the configuration UI, etc., all have known locations within the package. You can also put images and whatever other data you want. We've started a small packaging application that steps you through the process of creating these packages, and hopefully we'll have that ready for 4.0. If not for 4.0, definitely for 4.1, but I think it's doable for 4.0. We're also working on other bits of UI, such as when you mouse over. If you notice, these are all like really, really huge, which is why I can't fit more of them on this desktop right now. We're working on a hover interface. When you hover over any of the objects, you get a little interface here that lets you do things such as resize, zoom, etc. And speaking of zooming, we're working on a 3-level zoom. There's work underway right now to get that implemented, so you can actually zoom out and see all of this, and the applets just devolve to icons, and if you zoom out once more, you actually see all of your different groups as icons themselves, groups of applets, that is. So there's a lot of these interface issues that we're starting to work on now to make things look pretty. For instance, you may have noticed that the backgrounds are pretty ugly right now, and that's because it was just a 5-minute. We need to prove that we can do a generic background for all the applets. There it is. The artists are working on a new background rendering system. It uses SVG, but it allows us to scale it up properly to whatever size we want without things like that corner mess happening. So I'm really happy about that. A lot of this is being pushed by these applet efforts. For instance, the scripting has really made a lot of, we need to change this in the API, tweak that in the API a little bit to make it as easy for people as possible. And speaking of scripting, Zach just blogged the other day that he's got Apple dashboard widgets working, and with a bit more work should be able to get Opera widgets working. So if there's any concern that we'll have enough widgets and add-ons and cool things to do with Plasma in KDE 4.0 even, let alone the rest of KDE 4, I think we can rest pretty easy. As well, I didn't forget this time, I do have cheesy outro music, and this would be the time for that.